We're not Americans. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Lancescurv show. It is early today and I have a lot of things that I'm going to do, so this is not going to be the 2-hour rant flow that I did yesterday. There are still a few things that I didn't touch on that I wanted to touch on, but I'm going to do some live shows today in a different way than I've done before. So we're still experimenting. We were up all night last night putting together a very special wide work table that I brought back from the States. And it's the kind that you can push the button and it raises up like almost right up under my neck almost. And those tables are made so you don't get circulation problems by sitting down too much, because I do a lot of editing and work and graphics and art and writing and all kind of stuff. And you look around and 5 and 6 hours went by, and that's not good for your legs. There was a doctor that one time came onto the show, and she said the worst thing that you can do is sit down. And so many years sitting down on the bus and coming home and sitting down in front of the computer. Thank the one who created me, I don't have issues, but I don't want issues, so I'm going to proactively work that way. Maybe I'll take a picture too and put it up on Instagram and show you what it looks like. Remind me if I don't. But these are the things you have to do when you are committed to what it is that you're doing. And that word committed is a funny word, because that changes everything when you say you want to do something, and if you're not committed, it's easy to let it go. And it makes me wonder how many of us are truly committed to what it is that we say we love, what it is that we say we want to accomplish, because that can be a very tough word to execute and to live by, but a very hard word to actually do. It's easy to say it, but it's hard to follow through, or just say basically it's challenging to do. And many people, you know, it was a white gay woman, right? I'm going to tell it like it is. Many years ago that I used to work with, and we were in corrections, and we were all sitting around, and we had a brother who was sitting there, and he talked about how much, you know, he loved his marriage and how much he was into it. And she asked him, she says, "Are you committed in the marriage?" I mean, just because I may not think that certain unions are the ultimate or what it should be, or not what nature intended, doesn't mean that the person can't speak truth. I've had people who have been very intelligent that I've asked directions that lived in certain towns. I remember I was in Atlantic City, and I was in Atlantic City one night, and I was doing like little tours from New York into Atlantic City, which wasn't far, but people would hire me on since I had the fancy van back in the day that I used to do the dollar van with, but it was really a nice van. So on the side, on the weekend sometime, people would hire me out, and we'd go to Atlantic City, we'd go down to Virginia, we'd go here and there, wherever they want to go. You pay for the gas, you pay for my food and my lodging, which I didn't mind sleeping on the couch or bunking with somebody. It didn't matter to me that I used to do that. So even now when I think back with the conversations that we have on the show, with the conversations and topics that we speak about, I've been a talking fool for a long time. And debates and conversations and differences of opinions. But back to what she said, you know, are you in a committed relationship? You know, well, and then he starts stuttering, because he really had to think about what she meant with that. And many people get involved that way, and they don't commit. They will say and they want the trappings of the relationship on the outside, but there's no true commitment, because it's so easy to abandon the person that you're with. In the day that we live in right now, and I'm not going to just blame social media, but I know social media has a lot to do with it, where it's so easy to get rid of people out of your life. People are disposable now. And what happened to the commitment? Now, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just using an example. Say, for example, you had that couple who they've been married for, like in the old Jet magazines, you'd see these people who are married for 40 years and 50 years and 60 years, 75 years. And they got married young and they're both in their 90s. And then when you see people in unions like this, you tend to want to inquire or ask them, what is your secret? What is your secret to a long, happy marriage? What is your secret to being together and committed to one person? And you usually have the woman, the wife, speak first. And I'm not saying this is what they all say, but I'm just making this up to prove a point. They would reveal simple things. And if you went in depth on those kind of interviews, which are really short and sweet because you didn't want to pry too much, but you'd have the wife say, you know, you got to let him have his space. And he let me have my space. And we had things that we disagreed on even to this day. But at the end of the day, we realized that we couldn't go to bed angry because we didn't know if we were going to wake up or not. We couldn't leave it that way. So that was one of our rules, that we don't go to bed angry. Another one of our rules is that no matter what, we did not have a disagreement in front of anyone else, not our children, not the neighbors. We could be fuming, angry, and mad, but we're not going to spill that over into the public or run to someone outside of our union without working it out ourselves. Provided he didn't put his hand on me and I didn't put my hand on him. Provided that there were no infidelities. But even still, and there was one woman who told it, for a while there, when he got into his late 40s, early 50s, it's like something came over him. And this is what I would say, most people would say is a midlife crisis, right? Something came over him. And I found out that 2 or 3 times, you know, or 2 or 3 different situations with 2 and 3 different women, and he was running around out there losing his mind. But we had been together for X amount of years at that point. We had been together for 30 years at that point, right? Because we got married right out of high school. So I had to say to myself, am I going to take this? And I went upside his head. I went upside his head because I found out about all 3 after the 3rd one blew it up because she wanted to be with him. But I was committed and he didn't act too committed, but I know deep down in his heart as a man, and this is not making excuses for men, but he had some things, other things going on that I knew about. So I had to make up my mind whether it was something salvageable or something that I was just going to let go, especially, how you doing, man? All right. Especially after so many years together and we had our children together that were basically grown and we had grandchildren. I had to weigh everything out. So once I understood what had happened with him, and I'm stretching it out more, right? Then I understood. But I needed to have a commitment from him because he committed to me before and something went wrong. All I'm saying is that what happened to that type of commitment? And yes, he would have had to have the same feeling if she went out and did something. But usually it's the man. And we know women cheat also, more in these days, more so than ever before. But like Sister Miko says, women know how to cheat better. Not that it's a better thing, but they're more efficient with covering their tracks. But that's a nasty subject that we don't really want to get into. We're about building the black family, building the black community, and this type of activity does not build us up and undergird our families and give us a good feeling. Although it has happened, although as I speak on this video right now, it's happening now, and it will happen in the future because you have different people who have a different set of standards and different moral compass. That's just the way it is. And the urge sometimes is too strong, but the other underlying factors of the different stresses that we go through, and this can be something like alcohol or drugs or whatever other addictions that we have, and we dive into that. And some people try to justify it and say, well, I'm not beating my wife, you know, I'm just doing this, I'm working to pay the bills. There's no justification for these infidelities at all. So if you choose to decide that you're going to stay and you're going to work in it, then that's on you and I applaud you, but you know what it entails, right? Another thing I want to speak about on top of commitment is the issue, and these are just little conversation starter ideas and thoughts that I put out there. The bottom line is, do we, and I can include the entire planet and other races, but I'm focusing on us because it's something that I've always thought about. Because as I get to this age and I look back on my life, I say to myself, I say, you know what? What if I wasn't in all of those other relationships that I was in? What if I just waited for that one? And what would I have done with all of that time that I that I had now that would have been freed up, that you get involved and you get emotional and this thing they say you think that may be love, and it may not be love. It might be love or whatever have you, but a lot of us don't, or we rush into things and we are not ready ourselves. We don't even know ourselves. Lots of times we're looking for people to complete us when we should complete ourselves. And like I said in the video yesterday, it should never be where it's two people who become one. Because if you're two people who could become one, that means you have unfinished business with yourself and you're 50% of a person. So if two can add up to one, then each one is half of one. And why would you want to bring half of a person to a relationship, right? That makes no sense. Then it won't work. Each person at half strength, each person not completed. Do you put the pie or what you're baking in the oven? They say put it in for an hour, and you say, well, okay, we'll take it out after 30 minutes. Do you expect that to work for you? Do you expect it to be something that is going to be the same way as if it matured all the way and baked completely as per the instructions and ingredients in the recipe, right? So I think that we leapfrog generally. I'm not saying this specifically to any one person. I'm not saying this is for everybody and that everybody does this. But I just think that lots of times we get involved with people and we don't even know what we like. And many of us, and especially I would say our sisters, and this is not a put down, but this is a deep introspective conclusion that I've come to, that too many, I'm not saying all, I'm not saying none, I'm saying some, but too many. Too many of our sisters allow and seek to be completed by a mate who really doesn't have the intention of committing or going the full way. Men, if you look at this woman, and if you can't see yourself being with her, if she falls into ill health, maybe in a wheelchair, maybe where she can't clean herself off, drool coming down out of her mouth, maybe she can't get involved in the same way physically that you enjoyed before, and this is shut off. Can you still see yourself with the real unconditional love being with her? If you have to think and take your time and wonder, you don't need to be in this thing at all. Me, in the past, I've been that person who wasn't complete going into things, as many, and you find out that many of the issues or challenges that you had in that relationship were really directly related to you. But in our youth and in our immaturity, we project it's your fault. You did this, you did that. But there are things that I've done that weren't too noble. I've been the guy who couldn't control my zipper sometimes because of the offers put to me that I couldn't say no to, and the lack of discipline that one can have in those situations. So we have to look within ourselves and say to ourselves, wow, what role did I have in this union? And I'm rolling on this. I'm not going to make this where this short one that I do this morning is something so complete. I'm throwing things out there because I would like to have some call-in shows where we chime in on topics like this, as well as other things that are happening in the world that affect us. But these things will always be. So we need to address them, and we need to be able to address them and conquer these things within ourselves so that our youth coming up, we can have very frank and direct conversations with them to help guide them and keep them from wasting not only just years, but decades of our life. Because how many of us will admit that we have gotten involved in relationships, and they may have been a time after a breakup where there was a short period, but we felt, and what they called a rebound, right? That we jump from one thing to the next. That if we are on fire and we can't find water to douse the flames that are on us, and we're burning up our clothes and our flesh, we see liquid. And we think that every bit of liquid that we see is good. So we pick up this big jug or canister of liquid and pour it over us in this next relationship to get over what it is that you're feeling as far as that sense of loss or that void. And that liquid ends up being gasoline. And so now we think the salvation is coming in this thing that looks like a water or something that will react that way. And we burn ourselves up even more and finish ourselves off. All because we could not see within ourselves that we weren't ready. And there's no one time when you're going to be completely ready. There's no one time where you're going to be 100% strength as a person, firing on all pistons as far as the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. But try to be at your best. Know where your blip is on the radar screen of life. Know where you stand emotionally if you're weak there. Spiritually if you're weak there. Mentally if you're weak there. Physically if you have any issues. And when you do meet someone, let them know what it is that you see. You see, vehicles have dashboards and odometers that let you know when the gas is low, that let you know when it's overheating, that lets you know when the electrical is off and maybe you have a problem with your alternator. It's easy to look at and have this thing tell it back to you what's wrong. So you have an idea when you bring it into the repair shop or the mechanic. But many of us don't realize that we need to know where we stand emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and all the combinations of all those things. Because I'm going to stress this again, like I said yesterday. It may be a spiritual issue that you're dealing with or a deficiency that you're dealing with, but it's never so cut and dried and clean and compartmentalized. We speak it that way, but it might be 80% spiritual and 20% emotional, right? It might be 55% mental and 45% physical. Hang-ups. Different idiosyncrasies that we have. You see, we're coming into a world that we don't know the difference when we come into the world of the natural world that we should be running toward in a time of crisis as it is now and really should have been all our lives, right? And the man-made world that will confuse us and tell us all types of moral standards, which a standard doesn't mean it's always high. It could be something very low. And then we come into this world as a clean slate and we pick up things on the way that mar us and make it where we have to untangle these things that are in us before we're ready to be bothered and deal with someone else. It's almost to the point where you live life, and many I know have gotten to a point where, and they should. And usually it's not too late, but it's later than it could have been. And they say, you know what, Lance? I am happy by myself. You know what, Lance? I get up in the morning. I drink what I want to drink, my herbal tea, my herb tea. I go out for a run. I come back in and take a shower, take a nap, get up and have a light breakfast, and see what it is that I want to do for that day. And I'm speaking on those who may be retired or able to do so, who don't have to get up and work 2 or 3 jobs, right? But even then, if you have to work 2 or 3 jobs, you need to have a sense of contentment within yourself and to know yourself. And those people that I mentioned, they say, boy, if I had only found myself this way early on, I would be so full and content without the voids that I carried many years ago, the voids that made me hunger more, the voids that made it easy for the shyster to come on into my life who didn't really want to give commitment, but he knew that I had a hunger in me and he put himself up to be the answer. Now this works both ways. This could be the man talking and a woman who comes in as a predator, right? I got to speak it from a man's point of view, a woman. I got to do one. I'm not going to do 2 videos and speak the same thing, right? So it makes it easy for you when you have these voids within you that someone from the outside can easily spot, especially when they're a predator. How you doing, my brother? Especially when you're a predator who seeks to use people. And I have to say on top of this, right? The gift of discernment. That's the biblical way they say it in the Bible. But just being able to see through the BS on an unseen level, on a spiritual level, right? That even those who, see, we think it's the good, righteous people, the people with the high vibrations that have this gift. Well, I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but the bottom line is that there are people on the other side with negativity and bad intentions and want to use you and suck you off for your energy, that have a great gift of discernment. And it's that gift of discernment that allows them to survive. And they survive like a leech. It's not a righteous thing. They're looking to go here, they're looking to go here, they're sleeping on the couch, they're living with this one woman. You know, and I'm saying it from a man's point of view. I'm not demonizing all men, because it's the same thing with some women, not all of us. And so the bottom line is that we learn after a while. And when we come through unscathed, which we all catch scars in this life, our bodies may look perfect, but the scars, emotional scars from the blows that we've taken, the hits that we took, they're still there, and they can heal. But we have to find ourselves in a healing environment. And very seldom do we do that, because those voids will pull us into something unhealthy. We didn't get over the other relationship. We think this relationship is going to give us everything we need to heal. And the healing has to be done solo, on your own. And if you find someone who is interesting to you, that you fancy and take interest in, it doesn't mean you have to jump into something with them. All it means is you say, listen, I really like you. And this is the things we have to teach our children on how to navigate and control our emotions and put ourselves in a better place. But you tell the person on a very mature level, this is for grown folks also. You like them, you want them in your life, you feel that they're a catch. And there's some of us who say, well, if I don't jump on this right now, somebody else might take it. If it's meant for you to be with this person, it will happen. You tell them if you're still in a place of healing, because you don't want to bring yourself into something new where you're not ready and healed up all the way. You don't bring yourself to the gym when you're aching and hurting, you haven't recuperated from the other workout. No, you don't do that. You'll continue to tear yourself down. You let them know, I'm very much interested in you. I definitely want you in my life. I would love to have you in my life as my mate, but unfortunately right now, I am not over the process of healing that I need to get over. I have voids in me, and I have work on myself that I need to have happen. If you feel the same way about me, and I'm assuming in this particular made-up scenario that that's the case, if you feel the same way for me, know that I'm going to wait for you, and I would like for you to wait for me. But in the meantime, we can get to know each other. In the meantime, we can be friends. We can be very close friends without crossing the line. You're mature, I'm mature. We know our bodies cry out sometime. We can hug, we can hold hands. And this is only if you're mature to say something like this. And it's only if the person that you're speaking to understands where you stand and respects you enough. And we're not talking about a man who says, oh, I'm all for it. Oh, I'm going to wait for you. Oh, we're going to develop a friendship and get to know each other so that when the time comes when you're ready, and maybe I have some things that I got to work on, that when I'm ready, we could not make the leap, but we can make a conscious move into merging our lives on a deeper level. But there are other areas of our lives that we can merge safely together and be there for each other. So yes, you are seeing each other, but there ain't no sex, because that opens up a whole different level. And maybe not that you want them to do your work, but maybe in their friendship, they can offer perspectives to you as to where you stand, which you should know where you stand, but they may catch something that you don't catch. And if you're brutally honest in your commitment to this person, even though you're not going to bed with them, you're not living with them, you're maintaining two different places. So don't use the fact that, well, we might as well just go on and live under the same roof. How are you going to heal if you can't stand on your own 2 feet? Right? How are you going to heal if you can't stand on your own 2 feet? Hey, don't use a man or don't use a woman for a place to live. Go on back to your mama's house and suck it up. Suck up the pride and let it be something where, hey, I got to go back to square one. No shame in my game. This is what I'm doing because I've got to be ready. You might not be ready financially. Don't use the prospect of that person and say, well, we got to combine or whatever. Now, in a catastrophe, in rare conditions, you may have to do that. You both may not have resources or know anybody else in that same city and not have much family. I understand that, but be careful with that because that will mess up the friendship and the healing, because you both are going to need time to yourself. And you're going to have your own space. And you should not have to feel as though when it gets to that level that, I want to get away from this person, they annoy me. Oh, they keep dropping their clothes around the place, not picking it up. Oh, I've been doing all this cooking, but I wish he would cook sometime. Or, it's a whole different world. And when you get to that point of being a little closer where it is time to commit more engagement in marriage and being together under the same roof, you must be brutally honest in what it is that your flaws are to your mate. And you must be brutally honest as to what you will tolerate and not tolerate. Okay, we're not going through each other's phones. But don't let me see you 3 o'clock in the morning cooped up in the bathroom whispering to somebody, talking about, I didn't want to wake you up. These are my buddies. We're talking about football, right? Don't do anything that appears to look suspicious. Nothing at all. Make a point of that. And if you see something that bothers you, don't sit there and let it swell up in your head and become something imaginary. Confront them on that and let them know, listen, this is not something that I want to see happen again because it insulted me, and let the person know. Most people who are intelligent, if you really are committed to the person, right? Most people who are intelligent and who want to work in a relationship and build it up are very sensible. And you don't speak out of anger where you're yelling at a person and raising your voice, and you respect them, but you let them know, listen, I'm very angry right now and we need to talk. And those things must be respected. But if you're ready for true commitment, those are the things that you're ready to do. And they must be on the same page, whether you're a man with a woman or a woman with a man. I can't address any other so-called grafted unions that this modern day society allows and pushes. That is not the energy that I condone. Don't hate anybody, but I don't condone that. I'm about the black family, and that does not build the black family, the black community. There's some very nice people that I know, but that there is not the foundation that builds something that lasts on forever and builds the right vibration in our children, right? So we have a lot to think about. And what I'm going to ask you before to wrap up, because I'm not going to stay longer, some of these Anthill Chronicle episodes will be longer. I love the longer ones. But again, like I said, I have a full day ahead of me and we have more shows to do. But I want to get out here every day if I can. Now, it might be raining and I can't do it. Then you know that, well, Lance couldn't get out there. But back to the odometer analogy that I didn't finish. You can see when the gas is low. You can see when the electric is stressed. You can see when the oil is low. You can see when there may be an electrical problem. But we don't have odometers that we can look at to say, you're a little stressed out physically. We may not even feel it. We may have it in our head. We have so much to do, but we're running ourselves down. But if we had that odometer to say, you know what, we need to rest a little bit. And we don't mean just sleep, but just be idle. Take your mind off of the things that are there. You show concern, but you don't worry. There's worry that's out of control. Worry does nothing for you. Worry and you're up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about something. What is that doing? You take some time and you show concern on certain things. And at the end of the day, nothing should stop you from getting a good meal and a good night's rest. And you say to yourself with this challenge, okay, challenge, I gave you enough of my energy. There would be a point of diminishing returns if I continue to sit here in the middle of the night and can't sleep. Now, number one, I'm not sleeping. I'm not getting my rest. And my mental energy is drained. My spiritual energy is being drained. I'm not good for nothing then. But some people will say you're cold. No. You show concern up to a certain amount of time. Unless now barring an emergency. And you cut off from it. You put your music on that takes you away. You drink your bitters or your herbs or whatever. You have your meal that you enjoy. And when you have things that are concerns that other people worry about, get away. I'm not one to say always spend money and go to a restaurant, because I don't trust most people that put their hands on the food. You don't know what vibrations you're getting. I've done a video on that. But sometimes you have to get away. Maybe get a piece of fruit, go to the park, a couple pieces of fruit, cut up a watermelon, get some mangoes if you can, or whatever it is that does it for you. We're not talking smoking, because that's not something good that you should do. We're not talking drinking. We're not talking getting into any of these things that we call addictions, or we feel are addictions, because that gives you a temporary release, but it never solves the challenge, and it never brings you closer to a solution. So even in us, within ourselves, try to imagine that you have an odometer, like the dashboard, like what's on the dashboard of that vehicle that you drive, or somebody that you know drives, because this is how cars are built. And maybe make a list. And I would suggest that. Spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, fatigue levels, different things that you may know. And again, understand that it may not just be a spiritual issue, clean, an emotional issue, clean, and that's it, just emotions, or just mental. Because even back in the day, I've got to know individuals who were incarcerated when I used to work as a corrections officer in various facilities, and eventually driving the bus in the same city where I know these guys who got out now. And when they were out, they weren't taking care of themselves 9 times out of 10. They say they need to give them meds and stuff, and I don't really believe in that. I believe in the holistic thing and the natural thing. But I'm going to say it this way. When they were off their meds and in the street and running the streets wild, they were off the chain. When they were in prison and jail, and they gave them these things, which again, I do not believe in, but I'm just saying it because of the market difference and a point that I want to make, that most often they give us medications and these chemicals to affect our brains in a way that is really a spiritual issue or an emotional. How do you medicate a spiritual, emotional, or mental issue? They say, well, mental people that have mental issues, they need that. But it's not solving the problem, right? My thing is, okay, and I don't mean to go too much off the thing, it's just that I say, make that list and understand that it could be a combination of any of those. Spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, emotional. You got to put the emotional there, right? That's the bottom line. But going back from that, again, we cannot feel as though we're ready to deal with anybody until we have, and it's better if you wait. You might burn a little bit, and you know what I'm talking about. But when you do join in on a union with someone, just because of your hormones being out of control and there's no understanding, there's no connection, now you're getting a soul tie and tying yourself up with the unknown because you don't know what their temperament is. And like I always say, when the number 100 got aroused and went to bed with 50, it woke up as 75, it lost, and 50 gained. So if our vibrations are high and we have someone around us who we just give into because of the physical desires, you know, that happens sometime. And we listen to them talk, and they talk all the good talk, and we say, wow, they're vibrating on a high vibration, but they're only talking that way to get next to you physically. After the act, you're going to feel it because they were only on a superficial level talking the talk, which is easy to do, but in their heart and in their being and in their essence, they're low vibration. And I'm going to tell you, as a person who's very sensitive, and I want to hear your responses on this. This is not about sex, or we're talking about sex, but that's a fact of life, and this is a very mature platform, and we talk about everything. I'm going to say it this way. I'm not going to assume and say, oh, everybody slept around with a couple hundred people or whatever. And if not, and you don't have this kind of experience, then there's no problem. That's even better. Because for me, personally, I wish that I would erase everything and not have spent that time. Lots of times in situations when I wasn't ready or the other person wasn't ready, but we did physical things that felt good and we were lured in to a person who was incomplete with that, right? But haven't you noticed that when you engage in the intimacies, complete until the climax, we'll say it that way, And this is maybe more than once, right? Hopefully, and hopefully not. Because if they're no good for you, you don't want to be bothered. You shouldn't have been bothered in the first place. But there's one point that I want to maybe make you see. Maybe it's me. But back in the past, in my younger days, when I did those bedroom calisthenics with someone new, not that I was vibrating on the highest, but I felt the drain. They say, oh yeah, Lance, I know you did. We're not talking about the physical drain. We're going beyond the physical. I felt the drain of that union that happened emotionally and spiritually, that soul tie. And even after it, I wasn't right for the next few days. I might have been strong. I might have been, coherent and knowing what, but there was something pulling on me. And if it wasn't the right connection, which 9 times out of 10, I'm going to admit it wasn't the right connection. But I didn't know that in my foolishness, my youthful foolishness. Because when you get older as a man and your hormones are not raging like they used to, you see things different. It's like nobody goes on a scenic drive. Let's take a drive. It's pouring down raining and it's midnight, so let's take a drive. Because you can't see. You can't enjoy that drive the same way as if you got out on a Sunday afternoon or on a day off on a Saturday and said, let's go for a nice drive. It's sunny, it's early, it's not raining. We can see everything. So because of our youth and the hormones flowing, that's like rain. So we can't see. We walk right into things that are damaging to us and sometimes leave permanent mental, spiritual, and emotional scars, or something that's really hard to overcome. And lots of times our children are gifts, but without planning, lots of times they come into our life a little more early than would have been best, because that's a whole other subject, that we get caught up and involved with somebody because of our voids. They're not looking to make any kind of commitment, but then we do the physical things that feel good for a time, and we think that this thing is love, and it may be some kind of emotionalism or whatever. But real love is unconditional and it is committed. Real love is commitment. And it doesn't mean just in a marriage. It could also be in your friendship. Now there's certain things you are not going to take, certain disrespects you're not going to take. But you have to decide what those things are, and you must state them to the universe so that, and to the people that you're involved in, so they say, I can't do that to Lance because that's something that he doesn't like. And I love him too much to do something on purpose that he doesn't like. So I'm going to respect him and his wishes, just as he respects me and my wishes. I'm just throwing out some random things on this, right? But even in friendships, even in acquaintances with acquaintances, there's a certain code of conduct that we have to have, and we need to understand their proximity to us. We have to understand that some people may be very good people, high vibration, but they're not in our super inner circle, and we may want them to be, but it's just not the time, right? So we have to navigate and know how we're navigating, but we also have to know what's inside of our tank. There's no way you're going to get up and say, oh, let's drive down from New York to Florida. I got a quarter tank of gas. We ain't got to worry. No, you need to concern yourself that you have enough fuel, because even if you fill that tank up, you're going to stop at some point to refuel again, because one tank is not enough. Vehicles are not that efficient. Now, even with an electric vehicle, you're going to have to charge it up again, right? So we need to know what's in our tank. We need to have that list where we have and speak about our odometers on those different levels, because lots of times we go around and what does this fly want? Go on around. The other day, I don't know what part of the video it was, but the fly, this guy's determined. Okay, I got you, right? The fly crawled up all over the lens. So I know at some point people say, what's this going on, Well, Lance, are you going to be that hungry kid the way you're losing weight, the way they portray Africa? And flies flying around? No, it doesn't work that way here. This is the food basket of the world. And there's so much natural, GMO, clean food growing here. I can go some of them bushes over there and go get me some mangoes for free. I just want to scar up my legs or fall. I'm a little older right now. But like I was saying, check yourself. And I don't mean that it's a bad thing like you did something wrong, but check yourself. See where you stand. See what your odometer tells you, your own personal odometer tells you of what you have in the tank, and if you should get involved with a person or not to a certain level, or if you're capable of commitment. Because if you don't have the commitment to keep your house clean, how are you going to join in with someone and expect your house to be clean with that person, right? It works both ways, and you can't get around it. That's the way it works. Anyway, I'm going to run. I wish I could stay out here for 2 or 3 hours. Those are very enjoyable. I want to get deeper and get more cerebral and talk about these things that are very important for us to prevent us from making misjudgments. We say mistakes, but I try to get away from that word now, because as long as it's something that is not of a permanent damage, I don't want to say mistake. I want to say misjudgment, because if we make a misjudgment and turn off the road the wrong way, and never, we can always correct that and come back and get to our destination. Let me clean up the other thing that I said I didn't finish up on. When I used to drive different people around in my van, many of the people who were wise and had intelligence and who were coherent and weren't high off of any substance, a lot of them couldn't tell me when I went to Atlantic City how to get out of there at night, because I didn't know the place other than once I got there, I knew how to get around. But you take a wrong turn and it's dark, you don't know. Wouldn't you know, I pulled up on a staggering drunk, I'll say it, a staggering pissy drunk who was sitting down on the side of the road talking to himself. And I had exhausted all means. I even went to a gas station, and the Indian guy that was there, I don't know, I really don't know, I'm just here from Bangladesh. I'm like, okay, no problem, you don't know. So, but they got their businesses here and they know what's up with that money, right? We need to get there some unity like some of these other people. And I hate to say it like I'm comparing. They're not better than us, right? But I pulled up on this drunk guy. And the people in my van like, come on, man, you really expect him to know? This guy can't even stand up. He's peeing his pants. I said, shh. How do I get back to the highway from here? There you go. Yeah, hold on a second. You go straight where you're going. You go down 3 blocks, and there's a McDonald's. You make a right, simple as that. I don't know what anybody else told you, but I saw you going back and forth. I said, this guy's lost. So here we are saying how lost he is, and probably he is. But he had enough sense over those who, yes, where would you like to go? I'll help you. And they're like, and they didn't know. So you have to never prejudge the source of wisdom or what you may need. And like the other analogy that I always use, and I'm going to get out of here after this, about the toolbox. The toolbox. We have a toolbox in our home if we do. Some of us don't. But for those of us who like to, are handy or like to piddle around with different things, or we're do-it-yourselfers, whatever, we have an ever-growing toolbox, because we might go to Lowe's or Home Depot or any hardware store or order stuff online, and we have tools. And of course, in that toolbox, you might use a hammer a whole lot, because there are a lot of uses that you use a hammer for: driving your nails, prying things out. You have the screwdrivers that are very important when you need them. The Phillips screwdriver and the slot, the one straight across, that screwdriver. Brain fart. Can't tell you what it is. Then you have other tools that are made like an Allen wrench for a certain size in a very specific manner, right? And you don't use those too much, right? You don't use those tools too much. And they sit there. And then you have that tool that you may have used one time, and maybe 5 years have gone by, 10 years have gone by, and that particular tool sits there collecting dust. Well, we and the capabilities that we have on the inside, the friends we have around us, the situations that are there, it's like that tool. Now, it doesn't mean that the hammer is more important than that tool that collected dust, because when you need that tool for the specific purpose that it's made for, the hammer's not doing nothing for you. The 2 screwdrivers are not doing anything for you. The Allen wrench is not doing anything for you. The level with the little bubble that lets you know when things are level, it's not doing anything for you. So what we have to do as human beings, HUE-MAN, hue, melanin, color, carbon, right? Stolen Africans, whatever you want to call it. We have to make sure that even though we have these misjudgments that some call mistakes, that we use that as a tool, the experience of going through that as a tool, so in the future when we encounter that same situation, we can find ourselves out of it because, aha, I got the perfect movement for this. I've been through something very similar before, and this is what I found the solution to be. You have that mental toolkit. And if you live life long enough, you have enough experiences to know. Now, my parents transitioned, my father in November of 1990, my mother in April of 1994. No one wants to go through the loss or the transition, which is selfish on my part to say I don't want to go. No, it's tough. It's nature. It's what happens. You can't accept life if you can't accept transitioning on to the next level. As much as back in maybe 3rd and 4th grade or 6th grade, you get attached to your schoolmates and your classmates, and the last day of school, sometimes you shed a tear. What are you going to do? Show up to the same class with the same grade and all of you'll agree, well, we don't want to hurt or we don't want to go through discomfort. So we're going to sit here and retard ourselves and keep ourselves developmentally delayed, all because of a sentimental feeling. Do you have that favorite suit that was purchased for you by your loved ones, by your family, by a friend, whoever it may be? And you're 8 years old and this thing fits so perfect and you loved it and you wanted to wear it all the time, and your caretakers said, your parents, whoever it may be, they said, listen, you can't wear this every day. This is for special occasions, right? So do you hold on to that suit or that dress or that outfit that was your favorite and wear it until you're 20 years old when you're grown and you grew out of it, right? So lots of times we have to know when to ascend and let go and embrace new situations and not to get stagnant. So the only way to know this is to look within yourself. Keep yourself refreshed. Keep your emotional landscaping trimmed and pruned and cut, because you never know who you're going to meet. Continue to work on yourself. There have been many times that people have come by the house in Orlando, Florida that we sold last November, and they may pull up real slow and they may say or may see Lily Vegan, Lily Fire, Mrs. SCURV out there, because that's her passion. Being in the yard, growing vegetables, growing fruits. Listen, if you've been around, you know what that backyard looked like. And it wasn't some set of sprawling acreage, right? It was a situation where it was a nice sized yard, big yard for that area. And that was her commitment, right? And there are people who lived on the other side of the lake that drove through as a shortcut that we don't know. And they saw her taking a break, and some lady may drive up and say, you know what? I've been living in this neighborhood for 20 years. And I kind of think you've been here almost around the same time. I have to say, I don't know you. They may introduce themselves. And they may point over to the house on the other side of the lake where they live. And they say, you know what? I admire you by the way you keep your home. And the way you keep your home and your yard. And I see you sweating and I see you working hard to maintain your yard. And I already know, because I drove past one night and I saw the windows, the blinds open, and you kept such a fabulous home. You keep such a fabulous, I say kept now because we're not there anymore. You keep such a clean, fabulous home, and you're always working on it, always perfecting it, always embellishing it. This week I see a new set of pots or some new plants, or you rearrange it in a way that makes it look better. And I wish more people would be this way. But it says to me a lot about who you are, right? A lot about who you are by the way you keep this yard. And whether I get to know you or not, I'm a very busy person. I just want to let you know we need more people like you in this world. So, the way we carry ourselves in this world, the way we treat people in this world, The way we keep ourselves, the way we dress. And I don't mean designer outfits. I mean keeping your stuff clean, whatever it is you have, on whatever level that it is. Keeping yourself clean, press the outfits that you have on, and your carriage, and your dignity, and your moral compass. You're walking down the street by the typical construction site, or even by the corner, and you have a guy, psst, psst, hey girl, yo, come over here, girl. And you turn around, what? After being addressed in such a way, another man who thought that you had a higher moral compass looks at that and says, man, I was interested in her. I thought, but the way she turned around at this guy who didn't address her properly, that's not on my standard. So since that's her standard, that's okay. That's what she wants to do. Maybe she's blind, but that's not my cup of tea. So I'll pass on my prior desire to want to reach out and get to know this sister if she was available. You see what I mean? So the way we keep our lawn, the way we keep our landscaping, the way we treat ourselves and allow ourselves to be treated, lets other people know how far they can get away with things with us. And if we feel that we are half a person, and nobody wants to think that, but if we have these voids that are not worked on that we should work on, we need to get busy and work on them. Because those voids, unless we fill them up and take care of them and figure out why we have those voids, maybe one of our parents didn't give us sufficient love. Maybe we were traumatized at a young age by being violated physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or maybe all of the above. We got to locate why we have these voids and make sure to fill them up. Just like back in the day, when you would have a crack in your windshield, and in those days there was nothing you can do about it. You see a little crack, and the crack would get longer. The more potholes you hit, you know, the vibrations of the vehicle, it would get longer and longer, and you'd have to pay for an entirely new windshield. Now you have these resins that when you have a little crack in your windshield, they can fill up the crack and fill up the void. So now it's undergirded by the strength of that resin, and the crack doesn't get any more air in it. And for the most part, you can make the crack disappear. There might be a little mark, but for the most part, you just don't see it like you used to see it before. This is what we have to do, because these voids can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we may be in denial and not committed to ourselves the same way we think we're committed to somebody else. And we become more of a wreck. We become more of a liability by something that we refuse to deal with, that was smaller and getting bigger. Like the IRS says you owe X amount of taxes. You say, I'll pay it later. Next few months, it comes back with interest and fees. Now you're getting scared, but you're still going denial. And now a year goes by and you don't pay this thing off. And I mean, it's annoying. We know it's a private institution and all of this American foolishness that they use to trick us. But now it's so much bigger, and that's just by an example. And you say to yourself, why didn't I just pay that $500? Now it's $10,000. Now, I don't think it would go up that fast, but you never know. There are certain people who are in certain situations that they allow to get out of hand. And it's not just financial. It could be addiction. It could be a temper. It could be how we treat other people. It could be how dishonest we are or envious we are at people, or how giving, trying to be nice and trying to be liked because we feel we're not worthy of being liked. So we sell ourselves short by letting the world know that, oh, okay, I'm going to be the mothering spirit to you. And men can do it too. And we just give everything up. Oh, you want something to eat? Or come on, I'll do this for you. And with no reciprocation. And the people smile and they act and treat you like you're liked, but they're like, this person's a fool. We going to ride this gravy train for a long time. They just giving everything up. You see what I mean? So we got to be careful, because if we have these voids in us, you know, people can see it, because, like I said, even the demonic negative energies have the gift of discernment, and they will read you like a cheap novel. So once again, don't leapfrog from one relationship to the next. We talked about a lot of things. I'm out here a little longer than what I thought. But don't leapfrog from one situation to the next. Take your time and try to even resist getting involved with things. Make that list and speak on to yourself in your book. Lots of times in our diaries, if we have one, we'll write and write. And what happened to diaries? We used to have diaries, right? Had a little lock on it, and we write in there our innermost feelings, and we go back and see how we felt. I'm not even saying that because I really wasn't into the whole diary thing. I was just, everything was in my head. But write down what you need to do to work on. Like when you go to the supermarket, you have a shopping list and you say, I need all of these things. I have to write it down so I don't forget. But there's certain things that you need that if you don't write it down, you may forget. And these things are more crucial than what you find on a shopping list, right? So make sure to write that list and see what it is as far as the work is concerned that we need to do for ourselves as an individual. Because as the years go by, it can get to be like that crack in the windshield unattended to become a bigger problem. And if we don't deal with that crack in the windshield and it gets too big and we hit enough of a pothole, that whole windshield can shatter in shards and come down on you. And they have it coated and everything, I understand that. But you may catch an impact and your head hit and the airbag doesn't deploy and all this glass is in your eye and in your face and you're ripped up. Who wants that? If you can avoid it on a preventative level, you need and I need, and this goes for me too, we all need to take an assessment on what's going on with us, because we can't wait for it to get to be something out of hand. This is how you see people in the street and now hold that part. Let me just say why I said that. You see people, and me driving the bus for many years, I've seen people and seen the dialogue between two people meeting. And the gentleman who acted like a gentleman at the time, he put his best foot forward because he wanted to appeal to this person. And this is what we do. And the young lady put her best foot forward because she wanted to appeal to this guy who appeared to be a gentleman. But now, 2-3 years go by, and because they weren't complete as much as they can be, they weren't working on themselves, I see him now walking in front of her, 10 feet, cussing her out, and she's pushing a double baby carriage. I see them on another time in an alley, look like he just finished smacking her up because she's holding her face and he's mad. But you didn't do these things to attract that person, right? You didn't work on the voids and the things that are inside you that need to be worked on. You just went ahead and took it on face value. And we go ahead like that used car salesman who says, oh yes, cream puff, lemon. No, not lemon. It's not a lemon, it's a cream puff. It's a great deal. You want to jump on it. And they always tell you to call them before they show up so they can crank up the engine and get it warmed up because it's going to have pressure, right? So you get there and you're duped and they put the music up high, nice sound system. You don't hear the squeaks and different things. So we do that. And I've seen many people in the street who have met each other and see the relationship over time and then break up. And then in the years I've been driving the bus, I've seen people go through 3 and 4 major relationships. Not everybody, but I've seen this happen. Like, you with this person now? We leapfrog. What if we took that energy and worked on ourselves? And for those of you who feel bad that I didn't go to this prestigious university, what if you went to the University of You? How many of us who are so-called scholars with degrees and certifications on the wall from other places never went to the University of You? How about that? And no commitment to yourself. Lots of times we have these voids and we want to give commitment to other people, but we never commit to ourselves and make that list and see what it is that we have to work on. So that's my homework. That's your homework. Professor SCURV has spoken. Experience is the best teacher. It's not always just a piece of paper, so understand that. But I'm going to wrap it down now. And these are just a few thoughts. I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. I think it's been like about an hour now. I've been out here. There's things I still have to do, but I had to get that out. And as always, leave the nice long comments. I may use that and put it on my blog, your name as it is on YouTube. And Melanin Envy, I'm going to make sure to get everybody's login correct today. That is priority. And since it's early, we're going to have all good shows with Empress Elegy. And for me, I want to thank you. Because imagine from where I stand, the amount of interaction with the good people, with the high vibrating brothers and sisters and brothers. I don't give you guys credit enough. I speak about the negative and I speak about the entity because I want you to be careful out here in the world. But I also have to say that I am undergirded and loved righteously, unconditionally by many that have helped me in my healing in ways that maybe you didn't realize that I needed. Because I too, like anybody else, have voids. But my thing, I can get up here in front of the camera and admit that. And hopefully, from what I see, those voids are shrinking. Those voids are dissipating and going away. And it allows me to enjoy a more down-to-earth life. I'm away from this place physically called America, but I've been away from there for a long time, so I was never caught up in having to have the new car and this and the biggest house. I've been over those things. So I can come to a place like Accra and have such a wonderful life because I'm having a wonderful life from within. I cleaned house. Nobody wants to eat off of a dirty plate. Nobody wants to go to a hotel for a good night's sleep in another town and sleep in somebody else's bodily fluids. Nobody wants to take sloppy seconds for anything, so never tolerate that. And you don't allow yourself to become a sloppy second for somebody else that somebody else messed you up, and now you can't give the best of who you are to this person as you expect them to give to you. There's a lot that we have to do in our self-reflection. There's a lot that we have to do in our meditation. And if we go on years without really dealing with dusting off the furniture, not even just dusting it off, because dust is just going to fall on the ground and be there. How many people have we known that, like that room that was dusty, but it never had no air going through it, it looks clean. And you go inside that room, and all of a sudden, you open up the windows or you sweep a little bit and it's all this dust. You begin to clean up and it's all this dust. And you said, I didn't even know I had such toxicity around me. Well, the people around us could be the same way. That they have the low dormant voids that they don't take care of. And it becomes very toxic to us because we absorb this by being around them, whether you're sexually involved or not. So our house cleaning and not subjecting ourselves to somebody else's lack of their house cleaning is very important. And I'm going to have to rip it, you know what I mean? Because I will sit here and talk for another hour, another two. And as much as I'd like to do that, I'm not able to do that today. There's some things, like I said, that I have to take care of before the sun gets at a certain angle. And I already know what time it is according to the angle of the sun. I'm trying to get away from looking at the cell phone. I'm trying to get away from looking at a watch. And so I want to get back connected to nature, feet on the ground, grounded, knowing the angle of the sun and knowing what I have to do, right? So make sure that we take care of the business of ourselves. Make sure that you graduate from the University of You. Make sure that you make the commitment to get a master's in yourself. Because again, like I said, so many of us have external degrees. And we're so ignorant as to what we need for ourselves to live a truly happy life. And what good is it to have all the riches in the world? What good is it to have all the certifications and diplomas and degrees, and you can't be happy within yourself? Just want to say much love to my sisters. Salute to my warrior brothers. This is another segment from my heart, from my mind, from my soul, right here by the anthill. The Anthill Chronicles. It's just something about this place and something about that particular anthill. We have so many around us in a crowd that are like that. And I like the fact that nobody tears them down. Let them live. That's a good thing. Anyway, it's about the black family, building the black family, a strong black family, black community, black infrastructure, and black excellence. Because you know what? Everyone else sucks from us and takes the resources and the greatness for themselves and their betterment. But when we do it and we state it, we are racist, we are prejudiced, we are whatever. But nobody is there to rescue us from the conditions that we found ourselves in from what has happened to us in dealing with the pink parasite. So it's up to us to heal ourselves and cut off. When someone is ill, they're quarantined pretty much in a hospital or somewhere until we get well. When you see that animal who gets sick and he goes off and eats grass and goes up in the mountains, he comes back well. We have to separate ourselves even as we navigate amongst those who don't look like us. But we have to know what it is that we need for healing. And that's what it's all about. We all need healing. Lancescurv out, on to the next one. As always, I'm a servant of my people, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be here today by the Anthill for the Anthill Chronicles to speak my mind. I appreciate you so much, and thank you for helping me to heal. Peace, love, and prosperity always. Lancescurv out.